order the July 14, 2015 meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. Welcome to everyone joining us today here in the council chamber, as well as those watching or listening through Oshkosh Community Media Services. We are happy to have citizens participate in their city government in any way, so welcome to all. This time I'll ask the city clerk to take a roll call.
Allison Osby. Here. Herman.
Here.
Peck.
Here.
Pansky. Here. Stepanik.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Present 7.
At this time I'd like Councilperson Deb Allison Osby to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we gather tonight, we are grateful for the good things that have come to the city. May our decisions always be ones that are for the well-being of all whom we govern. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now take citizen statements. Citizens are to address the council only. Statements are limited to 5 minutes, must address items that are not listed on the council meeting agenda, are limited to issues that have an impact on the city of Oshkosh and the Common Council, may address at future meetings, and must not include endorsements of any candidates or other electioneering. Those speaking to the council will give us their name and address.
Good evening, Bob Chiava, 511 Tipperary Road, Brooklyn, Wisconsin, 53521. Here tonight on behalf of Oshkosh Sawdust Days. I did have instructions that to address item 36 in section K of the agenda, now would be the time to do that, so just wanted to let you know that I'm here. Hope everyone received the email that I sent out. And again, it would be Sawdust Days position. We're looking for the fireworks show in 2016 to be on Saturday, July 2nd. And the named sponsor is in agreement with that change, I guess it would be, for setting that date. So if you have any questions now, I'd be happy to answer them, or I'd be happy to come back up when you get to item 36 later. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Next on our agenda is the first public hearing. There will be no formal action taken on this at this meeting, and I will read it 3 times. Ordinance 15-323, approve official mapping of Sawyer Creek watershed, 2700 block of Clairville Road, Town of Algoma. Ordinance 15-323, approve official mapping of Sawyer Creek watershed, 2700 block of Clairville Road, Town of Algoma. Ordinance 15-323, approve official mapping of Sawyer Creek watershed, 2700 block of Clairville Road, Town of Algoma. Next, we will have the consent agenda items, and citizens can address any item as I go through them, and I ask that the council, if there are questions by the citizens, they will be answered after all the agenda items are read. And I ask council, if you have any questions or want things pulled, that you wait until the end. Number 2, approval of bills presented by the Finance Director, receipt and filing of Common Council minutes from June 23, 2015, approval of cash report for May 2015, receipt of claims filed with the city's insurance company, a State Farm, on behalf of Amy Moon for alleged damages from a water main break. Resolution 15-324, approve amendment to engineering services agreement with Speedy Clean Drain and Sewer for sanitary and storm sewer main and lateral televising. Resolution 15-325, approve conditional use permit, planned development for wet stormwater detention basin west of 1015 South Washburn Street. Resolution 15-326, approve engineering services agreement with ACOM Technical Services, Inc. for construction management for 9th and Washburn Area Detention Basin. Resolution 15-327, award bid for Public Works contract number 15-01 to James Peterson Sons, Inc. for 9th and Washburn Area Detention Basin. Resolution 15-328, approve setting public hearing date to vacate portions of Western Drive, Bristol Drive, Square Lake Drive, and Nielsen Drive, all within Bristol Square subdivision. Resolution 15-329, approve and execute relocation of and determination of necessity to acquire property at corner of North Main Street and New York Avenue and accept easements, dedicate street right-of-way, North Main Street reconstruction, New York Avenue to Murdoch Avenue. Resolution 15-330, grant privilege in street adjacent to 2012-21 Knapp Street. Resolution 15-331, approve accepting stormwater easement at 150 North Campbell Road. Resolution 15-332, approve accepting storm sewer easement at 525 and 1135 West 20th Avenue. The following resolutions, 15-333 to 15-345, are all special events for 2015. Oshkosh Downtown bid to utilize Main Street and side streets for their downtown sidewalk sales July 16, August 20, and September 17. Resolution 15334, Expansion Theory Productions to utilize Peabody's parking lot for their Oshkosh Main Street Music Festival stage July 31 and August 1. Resolution 15-335, Winnebago County Fair Association to utilize Sunnyview Exposition Center for the Winnebago County Art Fair August 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Resolution -336, Boys and Girls Club to utilize 539 Broad Street, their National Night Out, August 4. Resolution 15-337, Rock for Autism Oshkosh Kiwanis to utilize Leach Amphitheater for their Wisconsin Rock for Autism, August 29. Resolution 15-338, Lourdes Academy to utilize Gunther Street and West 5th Avenue for the Eucharist Procession, September 3rd. Resolution 15-339, Oakbrook Church to utilize city streets for their Babies for Heaven 5K Run Walk, October 3rd. Resolution 15-340, UW Oshkosh to utilize city streets for their Fox Valley Take Back the Night, October 7. Resolution 15-341, Lourdes Academy to utilize city streets for the Lourdes Academy Homecoming Parade, October 16. Resolution 15-342, bid to utilize 400 and 500 blocks of North Main Street for their downtown Oshkosh Halloween Trick or Treat, October 28. Resolution -15343 has been drawn by applicant. Resolution 15344, approval of block party Plummer Street between South Park and Florida Avenue, August 4. Resolution 15-345, approval of block party West 5th Avenue between Knapp Street and Idaho Street, August 4. Does anyone from the public have any questions? Move it back to the council for any questions or anything.
Got a couple more to go.
Two more on the
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Two more after the special.
Resolution 15-346, approve appointments to the following: Library Board, Redevelopment Authority, Transit Authority, Board and Housing Authority. Resolution 15-347, approve special Class B licenses, combination Class B license, Class A fermented malt license, operator licenses, and taxi cab driver license. Any questions from the public? Now I'll take it back to council. Are there any questions or anything that anyone wants pulled?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second. Is there any further discussion? The city clerk, please take the roll call.
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Hansky?
Aye.
Stepanik?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Cummings?
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next, we have pending ordinances. The first is ordinance 15-348, approve zone changes from A to ETZ General Agricultural Extraterritorial Zoning to R1 ETZ Single Family Residential Extraterritorial Zoning and to A1 ETZ Light Agricultural Extraterritorial Zoning, 2700 block of Clearville Road, south of West 20th Avenue, Town of Algoma. Are there any questions, comments from the public? I'll take it back to the council for questions, comments. If there are none, I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Would the city clerk please take the roll call?
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Peck?
Aye.
Pansky?
Aye.
Stefanik?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Cummings?
Aye.
Carried 7.
We move on to now new ordinances, and there are 3, and there will be no formal action taken on any of these this evening. Ordinance 15-349, repeal and recreate a portion of the Streets and Sidewalks Ordinance Section 15-23, street to remain open to traffic during course of excavation. Ordinance 15-350, amend municipal ordinances related to license, investigation, and approval, the granting and issuance of alcohol beverage licenses. Ordinance 15-351, amend Chapter 8 Hotel and Motel Room Tax Ordinance to relocate room tax distribution, continuing 2% of the room tax dedication to Convention Center debt retirement, and amending the timing of payments of hotel and motel room tax. Move resolutions. Resolution 15-352, authorize grant application to Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and authorize agreement for grant administration with First Merit Bank in Martin County for demolition at 1118 South Main Street, which is the former Buckstaff property. Would Mr. Davis please come forward and kind of explain so everyone knows exactly what's going on to this long-awaited event in our city's history?
I can't tell you exactly everything that's going on, but I can tell you my piece of the puzzle, which is 2 grant applications, and the city's been very successful in the past of making these grant applications for remediation and cleanup of some of our blighted industrial properties. The city and the RDA would both make an application to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for funding to help demolish and clean that site. That is my understanding as part of the negotiations for the settlement agreement for the entire suit that the city's brought against the current owners of the property, of the Buckstaff property. So we're playing one role right now regarding acquiring some funding to help with the demolition of those buildings that have become a blight in the neighborhood.
I do have one question. I think this is on everyone's mind. If everything goes as planned, when might those buildings come down?
Oh, you look at me, Alan.
I said when might.
When might? We're optimistic that we can get the grant application done and in and approved by WEDC still this summer. In theory, the deconstruction could start later this year. We're optimistic it could be done soon enough that the city could make themselves. We could apply for additional EPA grant funding to help with additional cleanup that we might be able to get for the site for 2016. Everything above grade, we're hoping would actually be down within the next few months, actually.
Great.
Mr. Roloff, want to correct me on any of my statements?
No, I think we're optimistic. The council is aware because we've had discussions. The slab itself would not be part of the initial demolition. That would probably take more time with the EPA, but the building, I think that's what you were looking for, Mr. Mayor, was when would the building be down? And we're optimistic, but again, this is not the settlement yet, and I've said that multiple times because I have to want to believe it myself, but we don't have a settlement yet. We're putting together the building blocks, what will effectively become a settlement if all the other things fall into place. Is that fair, Mr. Praska, in terms of a settlement?
Correct.
So tomorrow's out.
That would be out.
Although-
But tomorrow the RDA will take up declaring it blighted, which is an important aspect to that, and they're going to separately apply for a similar grant, because by splitting up the property from an application standpoint, we can take advantage of two entities seeking a grant, which every penny counts when we're looking to try to put the building blocks together of a settlement.
So by the time the snow flies,
don't want to
hold
by
you.
the end of the year is what I'd because snow might fly before the end of the year.
That is an optimistic goal that we are pursuing.
I think it's a very encouraging goal after this many decades of that eyesore greeting visitors to the city of Oshkosh and residents. Any comments? Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Roloff, is there any questions or comments from the public? Should I bring it back to the council? Discussion?
I would just thank all of the efforts of Mr. Roloff, Mr. Praska, Ms. Lawrenson, Mr. Davis for their diligence in getting and moving this forward and getting this agreement. I did say Mr. Praska first.
A lot
In
more
fact,
sweat than...
I recognize Mr. Praska before I recognize Ms. Lawrenson, so
You're being too kind. I'm not sure I should be first on that, or towards the top, but thank you.
The Attorney's Office has been...
So
really
with that,
very
I would move for the approval of Resolution 15-352.
Second.
And I think the council is ready to enthusiastically vote on this, City Clerk.
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Peck?
Aye.
Pansky?
Aye.
Stepanik?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Cummings?
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next on the agenda is council discussion, direction to the city manager, and future agenda items. A, we have a budget workshop, July 22nd at 5 p.m. in room 404.
Pretty much going to be similar to last year. Personnel, costs, wages, benefits, that's really going to be the primary emphasis, because that's, as we've talked about before, 3/4 of our budget.
Okay. Next is setting a date for the 2016 Festival Foods Fireworks Display.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, just to make sure that there's some clarification, Mr. Maurer had sent an email to Festival Foods, and depending on which date you're advocating, their answer would satisfy whatever date you would like it to be. They're very open to it. Mr. Maurer had originally told him that staff's recommendation has been for July 2nd because of cost considerations, which we're happy to talk to you about. And so it was, well, we're okay with July 2nd. But Ray said, well, it says you're comfortable with July 2nd. What does that mean? Oh, we're comfortable with whatever date you set. So the Festival Foods has no issue. I think Deputy Mayor Peck referred to it earlier. They just want to make sure that the date is right on their bags. And Festival Foods is really, they just want to make sure that it's marketed correctly. So Mr. Kiab, I think, saw the email that was positive about the date that Ray had first thrown out there, but they're comfortable with any and all dates, plus or minus July 4th, I think. But happy to answer questions council may have about cost considerations, which is where staff's recommendations coming from.
Mark? Have at it. Costs consideration.
July 2nd is a Saturday. We believe that, based on experience, that we'll get more family crowds on the 2nd because it's a Saturday versus the July 4th, which is a Monday. Cost considerations are that holidays require double time pay versus time and a half on a Saturday, so there are some cost savings there. If it was, one issue that was addressed by council a couple of years ago is that we cover the police costs. I can't remember the exact time, but I believe it's after, I believe it's after 8 o'clock. We are picking up the cost of police regardless of what day of the week it is. So that's not necessarily a consideration for you. But it's time and a half versus double time. If there's a rain cancellation, to move it to July 5th would push it farther into the week. If it was July 4th, it would push it into the week. If it was on July 2nd, it would get pushed to Sunday, July 3rd. That would still require, overtime would require call and pay, but any scenario of a rainout is going to require call and pay because you're going to be bringing everybody back for a bigger crowd. Probably more on July 5th than July 3rd, but there's always call-in costs. But it's time and a half versus double time. And then the other consideration, if there was a delay, there would be some logistic problems on July 5th if there was a delay, because pretty much Sawdust Days is moving out on the day after it ends. They will go through July 4th, so on July 5th, things will be moving. There'll be a lot of logistical problems with a fireworks show late on the 5th because of the movement of getting Sawdust Days out of town. So those are the logistical issues that are before the council. If you're a traditionalist for July 4th, you probably didn't care about anything I just said, and that's okay. That traditionalist that's part of our spirit, and we're okay with that. Staff is comfortable with whatever decision council makes, but we wanted to make sure you had eyes wide open in terms of you making a decision.
I have a question.
Herman?
Just for clarification, the 4th of July parade then would still happen on the 4th of July? This
Yes.
is strictly the fireworks show?
Correct, because the 4th of July, I believe that group has traditionally done on July 4th. It's a daytime event, so it's
Correct.
not an issue of, staying up late and, things like that.
I just know that a lot of people that come to the 4th of July parade then head down to Menominee Park and stake out their spot for the 4th of July fireworks and their picnics and everything else that they can get in the park, because there's no place to park or sit really in the park. You have to go down
So they
Menominee
stake their
Drive.
claim, yeah, they stake.
So
their claim
anyways,
early.
I just want to make sure that people are aware that the parade is not tied to the fireworks show.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And the other reason it's being changed is because next year is a leap year, correct?
Right. So, but we've had Monday, July 4th, and my understanding is we've had them on both dates. We've done it on Saturday, we've done it on Monday. There's no historical precedent that council's bound by. It really is your call. You're footing half the bill, Festival Foods is footing the other half. It's a great partnership with Festival, so they're kind of saying, it's all yours, council. What do you want to do?
Well, when you say we're footing the bill, the citizens of Oshkosh are footing the bill for half the fireworks display.
Very well put.
And they should come first. And I'm being one of those traditionalists that the 4th of July is the 4th of July. And this year, after I was interviewed by Channel 5, I went home because my two dogs do not like fireworks. And I watched television, and they covered the festivities in Green Bay and Sheboygan and Manitowoc, and they do it very traditionally. It's the parade, there's a lot of family activity in between the fireworks. So I think we've got to put the people who foot the bill have to come first. And I think the 4th of July is a national holiday. It commemorates the founding of this country, and to move it around to make it convenient, to save a few dollars or this and that, personally, I think it's wrong. That's not the reason behind the 4th of July. It's a celebration of our independence, and there's a parade involved and fireworks, and in between is family time, I guess. I don't know how others feel, but
I'd like to see it on the 4th. It's the holiday. That's when you should celebrate it.
I like it on the 4th.
I agree. I mean, the 4th, it's called no matter how you slice it, if it's going to be on the 2nd, it's still going to be the 4th of July fireworks. So then let's call it what it is and do it when it is and on the 4th of July.
is that a consensus?
I heard 4, so I don't know more. It's,
The big thing for me is, yes, there's cost concerns, but it is I'm weighing both sides, because I haven't heard any citizen feedback, but I know we have to set this soon so that we can plan the logistics related to it.
so I'm kind of, I'm torn. I see both sides. As a steward of taxpayers' money, I want it on the 2nd, but knowing what I've heard in the past when we've moved fireworks, the citizens preferred it on the 4th at that time. And they didn't really, the cost concern wasn't as much in the citizens' voices as it was, it's the 4th of July. So, with the consensus leaning towards having it on the 4th, I wouldn't object to keeping it on the 4th. So I'm not strongly pulled either way. If the council feels that the citizens are going to support the 4th, I think that's the most important thing. It's easy to make a cost analysis, but when it's your heart, the heart is on the 4th of July. And so the will of the citizens is the will that I will go with. I really don't have a strong opinion on this either way.
Mr. Chiava could come back up. I just have a question for him, please. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your email and the information that you provided, Council, and it was briefly discussed last night, the Parks Board and Mr. Mauer's here. My question is, if the council approves the fireworks for the 4th of July, that's your last day of your event, correct?
Yes.
Would you be requiring your vendors to stay longer and tear down on the next day, or per your contracts, would they be tearing down and moving out at the same time people are coming down to watch the fireworks?
I guess we're a little bit at your whim here on this decision. If the council decides that the fireworks are going to be on the 4th, then we would probably change our contract and show the show hours being noon to 11 on Sunday, where it normally would be noon to 8 on the last day.
Okay.
And I can tell you, historically, it wouldn't matter if we were done at 8 or 11 from the vendor standpoint. A lot of them will tear down and get off site with their units that evening, even if there was some,
Okay.
If we go later, a lot of them will still probably do it.
Because they have to be in other locations probably the following week with fairs and everything else going on, so they...
Some people on Tuesday, I had discussions with some of my vendors this year, and
Okay.
I have one in particular who has 3 units with us, and he has to be at a 6-day festival in the Eau Claire area Tuesday.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mauer, could you come up, please? Thank you. Hearing what was just said, do you anticipate a real problem with the parks side of things, with them moving out at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at the same time people are coming to the fireworks? That would probably start at 9:45 p.m. Do you see some confusion? Do you see problems? Do you see something that would be an issue to the Parks Department for the city?
I think, from what I heard from Bob, that's taking place occasionally every year, where they're closing down a little bit before the fireworks and moving out. So, that'd be more of a question, I guess, for the police and traffic flow. I guess my concern would be if there's a rain out on the 4th and it's moved to the 5th, Sawdust Day is trying to clean up on the 5th, and then vendors trying to get out as people are trying to get in. That's our biggest concern. And then a lot of the cleanup, if it were on the 5th, would be the city Parks Department taking care of the cleanup. So, but we can't predict the rain, and
No.
that's why Mr. Roloff said we can go either way, and we'll support whatever you decide. But as far as your original question, I guess it sounds like that's been happening ongoing already, so I don't think it's been an issue.
Yeah, well, traditionally, the fireworks is on before the end of the show. I mean, a day before or whatever,
Can we
traditionally. This
have-
is this is abnormal because it's a leap year, and that kind of moves things around. My biggest concern is safety. I think if we got vendors leaving and we got trucks pulling in and out and equipment being torn down and people walking around and people trying to get a good view to the fireworks, are we going to have a safety issue?
if I might, what I said is that if you decide that the fireworks are on the 4th, we will change our contract.
Okay.
And nobody's going to leave. That's the money
Any
day,
vendor's going to
frankly.
stay out there.
So we would change the end time on the contract to 11 p.m., which would be
They would be committed to being there. Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't, we would not be having any kind of move out, like, nobody would want to go anyways with that crowd there, so.
Is that easy for you to change your contract? That's not a problem? Okay. Just a question, if we do have a rain out on the 4th and we push this to the 5th and Sawdust Days is over, can we hold the fireworks without Sawdust Days going on?
Why
It's
not?
the city's fireworks.
We've done it,
Fireworks.
we
Yeah,
did
that's
it years
all.
before
Yeah.
Sawdust Days was around.
That
Yeah.
got detached a couple years ago, so it is entirely Festival Foods, City of Oshkosh partnership. So it would be the 5th. It's more the logistics that the Sawdust Days would be long gone, and then on the 6th, cleanup would rest entirely with the Parks Department. That's the risk that we run with that.
Historically, it's always been on the 4th, as long as I can remember. And if it rains on the 4th, it gets shoved back to the 5th or whatever, so.
It actually, that's incorrect. The list I sent you,
Yeah.
the last 6 years, it's only been on the 4th, 3 of the 6 days. If we went back and looked at the 10 years prior to that, I don't have all that data, but I could get it for you.
I said as long as I've been alive.
Historically, it's
The-
maybe half of the dates that it falls, the fireworks have actually been on the 4th.
The inclusion in the email that you sent us, the attachment, has the dates listed from 2015 was on the 4th. In 2014, it was also on the 4th. On 2013, it was on the 5th. 2012, again on the 4th. But both in 2011 and in 2010, it was on July 3rd. So that's the email that you were referring to, that's the inclusion on that.
Fireworks have only been, 3 of the last 6 years have only been on the 4th.
We're talking about next year, so let's move on. Do we need a vote, or is it consensus?
You know, I think it's a consensus issue because I have to sign a contract, and the contract doesn't come before the council, so I'm really going to base it on what I've heard. I've heard 4 council members say the 4th, so that's my intent, is to do it on the 4th. I respect everybody's opinion, traditionalists and non-traditionalists alike, but I think council is footing the bill on behalf of the taxpayer, so I think it's appropriate that I get council's input on this.
So the 4th it is. Next, we have discussion of fair housing code updates, and Councilman Stepanik.
Thank you. A member of the community was concerned about the number of protected classes we have in our fair housing codes. Currently, our fair housing codes reads, "It shall be prohibited discriminatory practice for any person to discriminate in real property transactions, refuse to sell, lease, sublease, rent, or in any other manner deny, withhold, or impair the transfer of title, leasehold, or any other interest in any part of any housing when such refusal is based upon race, color, sex, religion, ancestry, national origin, familial status, or handicap of the person refused." And I've looked at some other cities, for example, Manitowoc, they have those same protected classes, but they add sexual orientation, status as a victim of domestic abuse, status as a victim of sexual assault, status of a victim of stalking, lawful source of income, age, and then I would like to see gender identity added in there as well. When I sent an email over to the city manager and city attorney, it looks as though we haven't updated our code in about 20 years, and it certainly reflects that as far as protected classes go. So I would like to see an ordinance change. I'd be willing to bring forward an ordinance change that would add these protected classes to our fair housing codes.
I can place it on an agenda for discussion. I'd point out to Mr. Stepanik some of it's probably been 20 years easily that it was. You can look at it and take a step back in history about what was probably going on then, and the big issue was family status. Single-parent households were getting discriminated against. We do have a Equal Opportunity Housing Commission. It's required that we have one as part of our Community Development Block Grant Program. The commission only meets on a complaint basis. We have not had a meeting in at least 15 years, to my knowledge. It's all based on complaints. So it's an issue of, do we add these protected classes I didn't ask the attorney's office to do any additional research, but the question I had was, there is an overlay in our code that refers to the federal law, and if the federal law may already require it, we may already be under that requirement, even though it's not our code. So what Mr. Stepanek would be proposing is to mesh us with whatever current federal code is. That would probably be our first step, so we would be able to report back to council. This is what federal code already says. Do you want to just get consistent with it? Sometimes the way you do it is you reference, do you want to be consistent with federal law? Another option is just specifically mention them so that somebody opening our code book doesn't have to go to the federal code book. And that's really, those are the issues that you typically deal with when you're trying to get up to date with whatever federal law might be.
Just one comment. As a Realtor, the Realtor's Code of Ethics, we have to follow the federal guidelines, and I'm going from memory, there are 12 protected classes that we have to be careful of. Madison has 16. I don't know why Madison has 16. I have suspicions. But there are 12 protected classes, so maybe I should get you a copy of what we have to follow, which I'm pretty sure is based on the federal, then.
Well,
So
and
they're identical.
I think some of the actions that have recently taken place at the federal level in terms of marriage equality is going to reflect values that may not be codified at the federal level yet, but will quickly become codified as social change happens, but at the same time as the wheels of government tend to roll a little slower than society. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to put in writing the changes that are happening, particularly as it relates to sexual orientation and gender identity. Those are two things that we're seeing a lot of social change on, but I don't want to go too far that we end up putting ourselves in being on the head of the curve, because that exposes us to more.
The only other thought I had in the council, if they want to consider this, you taking that point, again, this committee has not met in at least 15 years, but the mayors and council have been appointing people. Ron Montgomery, some of you may know Ron. Ron used to be on the county board, works for Winnebago County. He thinks he's the chairman of the board, based on his recollection. Ron and I had a conversation, 5 years ago maybe, and Ron said, I think I'm chairman of that committee. Do you know? And Ron, I have no idea. I would think that first order of business would be to a committee chair. You could refer to that committee for feedback. That's certainly one option that you could consider.
Well, Mark, Mr. Roloff, I'd direct you to, first of all, find out if there's still, that commission is still, even though it's authorized, is it still in existence? Do they have members?
Mayors have been reappointing
all right,
people,
okay.
But it's the easiest commission to be on because they haven't met in 15 years.
And then the other thing I'd ask is if you could have research the federal statutes and the federal code, and then forward us that information, and then I think we can move on from there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a sad state of affairs that people have to be told not to discriminate against someone else.
Well,
I mean,
and-
at the end of the day, we're all humans, and it doesn't matter what color you are, what sex you are, whatever. We are still all a member of what's called the human race, and the fact that we have to say, you know, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, is a sad state of affairs.
I would agree.
Yeah. Just
Mr.
one
Herman?
thing further, if we're going to be rewriting our ordinance or adjusting our ordinance, could we have it written up so that it's kind of like adoptive? So if something changes on the federal level, something changes on the state level, you don't always have to bring it back. It's kind of like traffic for law enforcement. You know, the city has the city ordinance, but they adopted state statute for 346, which is traffic. So that way, as you said, these committees don't meet very often or haven't met in a long time, that any changes on that level, dealing with fair housing, our ordinance would automatically adopt whatever is out there. You know, we wouldn't have to be bringing it back and doing the research and doing everything. It would just automatically roll over, I guess you could say.
We can talk among staff with it.
I think that'd make it easier, especially as busy as our city attorney's office is these days. We can make things easier, and I think we should be looking at that as long as we have that, on all our ordinances that deal with the federal, state laws that we adopt. We should make sure that it's an automatic rollover to any changes that come out of the governments above us, so that we are in compliance, so that if something got through the cracks, if you want to call it that, we're covered because our ordinance already says we adopt it as it is out there.
Periodically, we have to do housekeeping.
Yeah, we have to do that
ordinances.
anyways. I mean,
So
we
this
do
is
that on our other things, and we're doing that on quite a few of ours, but I just think here's an opportunity to clean that up and maybe clean up some language, too. So,
Mr. Stonick?
I would agree with most of what's been said. As far as I'm almost positive that gender identity is not at federal standard or state standards, and I would still like to see that put into our housing codes. We have a diverse community, and we need to make sure that we protect our residents in every way possible.
Any further discussion? Okay. This is the second time for citizens to make statements to the council. I see no one rushing forward, so we'll move on to council member announcements and statements. Mr. Herman, you would like to talk about the large turnout at the 4th of July parade.
yeah, I think, the only council member that was unable to make it was Councilmember Allison Osby, who was out of town, but I think all of us can relate to what a great turnout we had for the 4th of July. And there were comments being made, and, we had the discussion about the fireworks tonight, but there were comments being made by council members that the parade is the citizens' parade, and having it in the citizens' neighborhoods, I think, is critical. I thought that, having it down, CP and all that, citizens could come right out of their house. When it was on Bone, they could come right out of their house. You put it down Main Street, and you had nothing but concrete. And people got to find places to park. People got to drive to get there. Here they could come right out of their yards and sit in the terrace. There's plenty of trees, plenty of shade. Yes, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, but I know several council members' polo shirts were not very dry by the time they got down to the end of Irving.
Those of us that walked.
Yes, those of us that rode, we were okay. But all I'm saying is, for those that are putting the parade together, I think this is the best parade route. The numbers proved it. I think there was, it's just a great event, and I think we need to consider when we do some of these special events and parades and things that when we put them out there, they should be where a lot of our citizens are in the city of Oshkosh. And the 4th of July is the city's celebration along with our country. So I just want to bring that up as a comment that I thought the parade route was the best it's been in a long time since I've been on council.
One other comment, too, I think it was safer, because we're distributing candy in this where we could kind of toss it over the kids' heads onto the lawns, and they weren't having to run out in the street, which is a little bit dangerous. So it was a much safer route, too. And cool on top of the fire truck for those of us who rode.
Yeah, we didn't have too much issues up there.
But I enjoyed the interactions that I had.
Yeah.
Walking down the road and shaking hands of those that had chosen to identify themselves as veterans as well.
Any other comment? City manager announcements and statements.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
We're at the point that I'm looking for someone to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Shall we take a vote?
No,
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.